morning and welcome to Hungary Reports, national public media and one's foreign language news hour. I'm Csenge Gabriela Ibolya with today's news from Hungary and the Carpathian Basin. Let's begin. If the Spitzencandidate system wouldn't have made decision-making harder, then we would already have decided about the new leaders of the EU, announced Gergely Gulyás at a press conference. The minister in charge of the Prime Minister's office emphasized regarding Sunday's EU summit, the government is moderately optimistic when it comes to member states finding a candidate on the weekend who would be eligible to fill their positions, but in order to achieve this, EU leaders have to come to terms with the fact that the Spitzenkandidates do not have the needed majority. Gergely Gulyás added, EPP's Manfred Weber is not supported by 11 member states, including Hungary. The European parliamentary elections brought an important step forward for the forces that imagine Europe as an equal union of nations instead of a kind of empire directed from Brussels, said László Kövér, Speaker of Parliament, at the V4 presidential meeting in Poprad, Slovakia. The president pointed out that 10-15 years ago, no one would have imagined this, but today the Visegrad Group has become inevitable in EU decision-making.
It was consistent and persistent politics that were needed in the previous years to keep this cooperation together, as well as consistently coordinating our position at various institutions of the European Union on all important issues, including migration and budgetary questions, where we all have common interests. Today it seems that this cooperation has reached a level where the V4 countries are now an indispensable factor in the election of European Union officials.
The European Commission has failed when it comes to expansion. We can only hope that the next Commission will act differently, said Péter Szijjártó in Brussels at the meeting where they discussed Serbia joining the EU. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade criticized the European Union because they're slowing down expansion efforts, especially when it comes to the Western Balkans. The Minister thinks that this is harmful to the security of the entire Union, as it's only EU membership that could resolve conflicts in the region. Unemployment rate hasn't been this low in Hungary since the change in regime back in 1989. The number of employed people was above 4.5 million looking at the March-May period. It's also worth noting that 43,000 more people are working compared to the same period last year.
Even though this company manufacturing wrappers for the pharmaceutical products made in Székesfehérvár is continuously developing, it would be in need of additional skilled workers. The business does everything in order to find employees. We look after wages. We're trying to maintain the wage level by continually raising salaries, the director said. The fact that companies are struggling more and more to find employees is also proven by recent data. The number of employees has grown by 40,000 between March and May compared to this time last year. This means more than 4.5 million people are employed in Hungary. In parallel to this, unemployment has continued to drop. In the examined 3 months, the number of those unemployed has fallen to 160,000, which is 10,000 less than last year. The Minister of Finance emphasized when speaking to M1 News that the unemployment rate hasn't been so low since the regime change. This is the fourth best figure in the EU. 800,000 more people are working now in Hungary compared to 2010. It can be seen clearly that the economic measures of recent years have brought about an economic structure which favors employment and supports growing wages, the Minister of Finance said. The minister said from the approximately 450,000–500,000 public sector employees registered unemployed and those working abroad, about 150,000–200,000 people will further increase the number of domestic employees soon.
And once again, the drop in temperatures came with horrible, destructive weather. The cold front came to the eastern and western parts of the country with storms, hail and severe winds. Fire brigades were alerted to thousands of locations. The destruction is huge. According to insurance companies, the storms caused damage of about 1.5 billion forints in June so far, which doesn't include today's destruction.
The sky above Kisvárda suddenly turned dark at the beginning of the afternoon. A few minutes later, as it can be seen on this footage as well, a storm hit the beach, a rather huge storm. The workers of this buffet tried to save what could be saved, but the wind and the rain left huge destruction behind. Chairs and flower pots were lying all over on the beach just a few minutes after the sunny weather. The exit was completely covered in branches. Fallen pine trees were lying next to each other in the city. This, however, only proved to be the smaller part of the destruction. Namely, the roof of an elementary school was torn open on a 30-meter section. The park in front of the school was completely destroyed. A little after 2:30, the cold front also hit Nyíregyháza. Hailstones as big as cherries were falling. There were some who could not get out of their cars. So much rain fell within a short period of time that it turned the streets into one big pool of water. Cars sank into the water up until their axles. The city of Máté Széka wasn't spared either. The storm destroyed roofs, fences, as well as entire gardens. These huge trees couldn't withstand the gale force winds either. More were twisted out of the soil by their roots. There were trees which fell in front of gates, making it impossible for those inside to leave. In the county of Szabolcs-Szatmár-Bereg, the disaster management was alarmed more than 1,000 times. Experts had lots to do in Hajdú-Bihar County as well. A 50-meter tree was twisted out by the storm in Létavértes, destroying 3 cars. Luckily, no one was inside those cars, so no personal injuries happened. The city's church was damaged as well. The cross situated at the top of the tower broke. The disaster management was called to 11 different locations in the city alone. The roofs of many houses were ripped off and cables were torn apart in Borsod-Abaúj-Zemplén County city of Bodrog-Keresztúr. This tree, broken into 2 parts, also shows the force of the storm. The healthy trunk basically split into pieces. People stood astonished and watched the aftermath of the destruction. Many already started to clean up the ruins and debris to assess the damage that today's few-minute storm had left behind. More than 16,000 notifications were made at insurance companies because of the fickle weather in June. According to their estimates, the damage exceeds 1.5 billion forints, in which today's damage is not yet included.
Ameyoshi Lima was born in the zoo of Nyíregyháza. The baby is 4 weeks old and is in good health. Visitors can already see the little one. The animal is still quite shy, spending most of its day clinging to its mother. These animals come from Madagascar and Ameyoshi. An interesting fact about them is that they're very clean animals, looking after each other's fur constantly. This sculpture park, inaugurated last year in Badacsony, presents the great figures of the Hungarian reform era, an outstanding period in Hungarian history. The portrait hall was made out of Carrara marble and displays famous figures who had close ties to Lake Balaton. In the 1700s and 1800s, when writers, poets, artists and scientists in Hungary started to discover the hidden treasures of Lake Balaton and its water, which till then was thought to be useless. This is when the bathing culture started to evolve. And that's all for now, but don't forget you can catch Hungary Reports every night after 11 p.m. news and online as always. Do stick around and watch our German, Russian, Chinese language news. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely evening.